How you doing?
Good. How are you?
Great. Glad to have you today on our podcast, The Grasshopper and the Bear.
Thank you.
I've met you over Instagram and through the Clubhouse, and then this is my co-host Kendrick the Man McClin, and our nicknames are Grasshopper. I'm the Grasshopper, and he's the Bear.
Bear.
That's so cute.
I'm the Grasshopper. I used to jump really high.
I bet that's not what you're looking for. Cute, but I think it's cute.
Hey, we can go with cute. That's fine. You're a guest.
He's always looking for cute. He's always looking for cute, Erin. Erin, I gotta give an introduction of you, okay? Are joining us today to talk about the importance of women's self-defense and also the Submit the Stigma Foundation that you started, which I love, anxiety and depression and things of that nature. I love that. I want to get into that with you. But to start, you are a Brazilian Jiu Jitsu black belt. You are a world no-gi champion, South American champion in Jiu Jitsu 2017, European Open champion, Asia Open champion 2018, to list just a few. You were a martial arts nomad, traveling from school to school and learning different and gaining more knowledge in jiu-jitsu. You've trained with some of the best in jiu-jitsu, and you are a writer. You've written articles for Flow Grappling and Gracie Mag, to name a few. You're amazing. We are big fans. Welcome to the Grasshopper and the Bear today.
Thank you. That was a great intro. Thank you. Reminds me of my former life.
Humble too, I see.
I seen a post that you started. I know you started to pick up training possibly and get more consistent. And it sounded like it was MMA, which makes me really excited. So I'm a big MMA fan, and I used to fight myself. So tell us a little bit, what's been going on lately?
So I went to wrestling this morning, and that's why I'm like so tired, because I haven't wrestled in a long time. I went back to DYNAMIX. I was training jiu-jitsu kind of like sporadically, but then I realized that my true love is MMA, and it has been for a long time, for a few years now. And I think the whole COVID thing kind of shut everything down. And from there, it was like, okay, well, my gym's closed. Okay, but they're training outside and it's summer in LA, and I don't really want to do that. And like, I had other plans, so I kind of diverted a bit. So getting back now has been amazing, because it's, I feel like my coach, Anthony Hardon, is just so understanding. He is like, if you need to rest, you can rest. Like, it's fine. Like, it's been a crazy year. Like, it's not like, oh, Erin, you just ditched us for a year while we were all training. No, I mean, a lot of them were still training. One of my main training partners, she has a fight this weekend, actually, Audrey Winter.
Oh, wow.
And
nice.
so she's going to be fighting in South Carolina. And so, I walk in and she's like, perfect timing. Like, this is my last hard week of training. And I was like, oh, no. But in a good way, right? Because she's on it, she's on her stuff. And I'm just really proud to be part of that team, even though like I haven't been there. And so just these last 2 weeks of me, coming back to train and stuff, I literally just kind of like swoop back in, and everything is the same, and it's just really nice. But it was definitely COVID, and then I was taking an EMT program where if I got sick, then I would be screwed, and the whole program would be shut down. So for those 4 months last year in the fall semester, I was doing that. But other than that, like, the training is like, it's huge, but my cardio sucks like so bad. I'm sure you can understand that.
Yeah, 100%. Cardio is important for everything. Any sport, especially fighting. I mean, but even basketball is important. So for fighting even more so, because it's the more better cardio you have, and it's important to have the skills, but less chance of you getting tired, and
I better defend myself. Yeah,
exactly. Easier to keep your arms up the whole time for
really
defense.
I used to like watch the UFC, like way back in the day before I learned any striking. And I was like, just keep your hands up. Like, what's so hard about that? And then I realized now it's like I do one round and I'm like, oh my God, just put your hands up. I'm like, it's so tiring.
I feel like I think I mentioned in my last message to you that I did quite a bit of research on you past couple of days. It was an amazing journey. I know a lot about you now. Ever since I heard you briefly step in the clubhouse and just say hi to everyone. And the second I heard you talking, and also the part where you talked about going into MMA from jiu-jitsu, being such a high level jiu-jitsu black belt and martial arts, going to mixed martial arts. I give props to anyone who takes a step into fighting, especially someone who's already quote unquote master in one area and will go into MMA. So I really respected that about you immediately. And you had such a great vibe. Everyone seemed to know you. I'm like, who's this woman? Everyone knows her. They're like, oh my God, Erin's in the room. So I started following you on Instagram.
I don't know how.
They do. I started following on Instagram, and then I always, now don't take this the wrong way, but I see how stalkers are born. If you read so much about someone, you feel like you know them, like they're you know them, but you don't. But
there was a girl back in LiveJournal days. Like I was on LiveJournal when I was in high school. This was 2005, let's say, that I was like in 10th grade, and I'm on, and there was a girl that I followed, and it was just her everyday life, and she'd be in a fashion, and she'd be like, here's the clothes that I wore, and here I had a good day, here I had a bad day. And I was like so in tune with her, and I'm like, this is crazy that like I've never met this girl, and I don't know what I would do if I did, because I just sort of look at them like, oh, you're that person. And I guess I became that person for a lot of people. Like I will meet them at seminars and like, it's really you, and I'm like, yeah.
Oh my God.
I'm extremely human. Like, and I to be honest, like I don't consider it humble. Like I'm not one of the best in jiu-jitsu. Like, yeah, I had a good run, and whether I go back or not, that can still happen. But I was never like top world champ every year, but I was always there. I was always like up there. So for me, I'm like, I'm just a regular person, and I try really, really hard. It's the same. Like I meet people who pretend like I'm this great person, and then they meet me, and then they end up getting better at jiu-jitsu than I do even, and they surpass me, and I just think it's the coolest thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Tell us more about Submit the Stigma. Just from what I've educated myself on is really honorable. You mentioned in previous Christina Berlon, I think, and Valerie Busco have been instrumental. Talk about that. Educate everybody about that. I think that's really important. I mean, once upon a time, like you said, stigma in terms of people having mental illness or just things going on in that regard. Maybe they were ashamed of it, didn't have anybody to talk to, different avenues and areas, unfortunately, negativity where they would express it. And it just wasn't being attended to the way that it is now. And then with what you've created with this, it's help, and it's comfort, it's a lot of things. But again, talk to us about that.
Yeah, so I started Submit the Stigma because I felt that there was not a outlet for people like me who struggle. So it came from experience. It wasn't necessarily that I saw someone else struggle and was like, I want to make sure that doesn't ever happen. It sort of was. What triggered the whole nonprofit and the campaign itself was when my dad died by suicide. And like I said, like people feel like they know me. Like I've been writing a blog since I was like a white belt. Like I've been sharing my life online for a very long time, and it helps people, and it helps me. Like helps me not feel alone. So without realizing it, when I created this GoFundMe page, and all these people are commenting and donating money and saying, oh, I've never told anyone this, but I do suffer from, suicidal ideations, or, my mom passed by suicide as well. And, you don't realize this until you become the first one. Like you stand up and you say, these are my truths. And then other people are like, wow, like they say that I'm so brave. And I'm like, you know what? Like at the time, it didn't feel that way. It just felt like there's no way that I could just let my dad die this way and like not say anything about it. And I needed to make something of it. And that was the GoFundMe. And I made sure that it went to the National Alliance on Mental Illness, because it was something that if my dad, was going to do some research online, because he was just like always stuck at home, that would have been important, because it's very easy. People are really afraid. They feel like they have to go to a doctor, they have to go to a psychologist. And then when they try to with US healthcare, it's like, you got to get a referral, you got to do all these things, right? It's not easy. But to go on a website and see resources and just sort of like do it on your own time, and you read about how to reach out to people and how to go into groups and stuff. So that was really important to me. I'm like, wow, there's a chapter in every single state. This is great. We'll just donate, all of the money to that. And it was like $6,000. And from there, that's when I was like, I want to make a statement, because that's me. I'm like an all or nothing kind of intense person. And I made it so that the Nogi Pans in 2015. That was my first tournament after my dad died, and my first tournament as a brown belt, because I received my brown belt that year from Marcelo Garcia. So I held up the sign, and I was in the final, and I was up 7-0, and the girl recovered guard and got me an armbar, and I tapped. There's like this MMA fighter, of course, they're just hunting, you know? And I remember crying my eyes out because I was like, this is supposed to be like my big moment. Like, I want to be like, I'm a champ. And I'm in my, at the time I lived out there. I'm like, I want to be making a huge statement. What's better than being like, look, guys, success and mental illness, they go together, you know?
Yes.
And when I didn't, you know, I was like, gonna make my sign. I was gonna go to the podium. And if anyone has ever competed in New York, it's a very small gymnasium. It's like the City College of New York. So you go, there's only one way to go in and one way to go out because they like the only IBJJF that has security there. You have to go through and get screened. And so usually, you know, the jiu-jitsu scene is really, really small. And if someone's not at the podium, it's not because they left. It's all you have to do is go walk around the gym once to be like, huh, is she here? Well, I was there. And I remember getting shit for it. Like someone commented, like the coach of the girl that I beat was like, you should at least show up to podiums because, you know, that's giving respect to the people that beat you. Well, yes, I was a mess. I was crying, but I was also sitting there scribbling my sign so that I could hold it up. No one came over and said, hey, Erin, we're doing the podium. So I came up, was like, it was just a weird thing that I'm like, this is gonna be my day. And then it totally was not my day at all. And so I didn't get the opportunity. And I was like, now I got to do the open because now I got to like, you know, get on the podium and take that picture. So I did. And then I ended up defaulting third, but I got on the podium. So I was like, this is great. I can, you know, hold up the sign. And then I did. And I held it. You know, I had friends that said, okay, I'll hold it too. And at that time, you know, then the next tournament was No-Gi Worlds. And that's when I won. And that's when it was like amazing. And I really could hold the sign. But was more important is like Angelica Galvão like came and said, hey, can I'll hold it too. Like Christina, my best friend, was holding it and she was holding it too, you know? And it's like, these people aren't there talking about it. And then we don't know if it's them, if it's someone they know, it doesn't even matter. Like, it was like when someone else went and held the sign, it was like, you get it, like, you get it, cool. Like, and it just said, submit the stigma of mental illness. And it has, and I just thought that was the perfect thing to name it because it's, I'm not asking you to do anything. I'm not asking you to think differently. I'm just asking you to be aware and to acknowledge. And of course, there's levels to it. You could be like an ambassador and welcome people from your gym and make them feel, you know, or whatever. I mean, it's not something that people come in and say, I want to sign up for jiu-jitsu and I have depression. It's not something that comes out. Not, I say shit like that because I'm crazy, but you know, I feel like it's a place where people can go. So when I realized that jiu-jitsu was such a parallel of support, exercise, all these things that mental health tells you to do, you know, stay active, have a support group, talk about people, blah, 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 all that, have goals. I mean, a stripe, a tournament, a new belt, you know, making sure that Jimmy doesn't get me in another guillotine. Like those are goals. Those are really easy, right? So I realized that it was such hand in hand with what my therapy was telling me to do and what I was already doing for jiu-jitsu. Now, during the time of my, like me going up the ranks before I hit black belt, I was always, like I said, like competing always at the top tournaments. I'd be out in Abu Dhabi, I'd be out in Lisbon, Portugal, competing at everything. And I didn't realize how much pressure I was putting on myself and how much losing was making me not like myself. And how, so that was a whole other thing of like finding out how jiu-jitsu and mental health can be deteriorated. So how to be safe. So I had all these ideas and I'm like, what do I do with it? So I made a nonprofit and I got people talking. And at first it was just, hey, can you hold this sign up? Or, hey, like if you want to buy a patch, you can. And then I go on seminar tours 2 years later. I'm all the way in Australia. And every seminar, I did 11 seminars out there. Every single seminar I said, who here has heard of Submit the Stigma? And I got at least one hand, if not like, I think at least 2 or 3, like in every single seminar. And I was like, okay, this is something that is not, it's spreading, but because it's necessary. So, I mean, that's kind of what I was thinking is just joining the two. And I'm like, I'm already doing it. I'm just going to speak about it. I don't have to be an expert because I'm living it and I'm getting my professional help and I'm doing what I know and working on myself. And I just share what I know.
I mean, you're blending the two so beautifully. Two great things, and you're using your skill and your talent and bringing awareness to such an important, thing like depression and anxiety. It's just a beautiful thing, Erin. I mean, that's a beautiful thing. Congratulations for finding that and blending those two together the way you did. And it was beautiful the way you did that for your dad during the first time you did it and wrote the sign. That's beautiful. And it happened the way it was supposed to. It was perfect. I think it was perfect. It was beautiful, Erin. I was trying not to get misty eyed when you were breaking it down, the story.
Yeah, I mean, if I want to make people cry, I know the things to say, but I usually avoid that when I'm trying to be like helpful. And there's different ways to talk about it. Sometimes people who like, obviously you understand, you already knew the work that I was doing and you appreciated it. But if I was talking to someone who wasn't, I would probably use shock value. I'd probably use TMI, all of those things, because if they don't think that like my illness is real, or not that I've ever had anyone say that, because they probably get punched or something.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think that it's important. And I think especially as much as COVID sucks and it killed people and it is killing people as we speak, and mentally too, like people are facing things that they never thought they would have to face. And they're like, and if they're in a bad situation, they had to stay home and stay in that situation. Or these things, especially jiu-jitsu being so therapeutic, is, how, I mean, I don't think people realized how therapeutic it was for them. Maybe their wives did and said, please go to jiu-jitsu, please. you're annoying me.
Sweat, go wrestle, go sweat.
Yeah, like go get it out of your system. Or the kids or whatever. Like it just has so many good aspects of it. And when that's taken away, when all these gyms closed, and you could understand living in California like me and seeing that all these lockdowns and shutdowns and stuff and not being able to train. And then, okay, you can train, but you could train outside. And then you got to wear a mask. And then it's like, well, if I have to go through all these precautions, is it really safe to be touching another stranger right now? And there's all these things. That's why I stayed away for so long. And I'm sure other people did. And living with my mom, who is technically a senior citizen, although it's kind of funny because she doesn't seem like that at all. But I mean, she's still susceptible. So all these things that happen, I mean, you can't talk about the last year without talking about it and the lockdowns and stuff. So I think that it's somewhat of a blessing if people were able to pull through and realize like, wow, like I do need things to work on, or I did work on it,
Right.
When you spend time with yourself, you realize whether you like yourself or you don't like yourself. And depression for me, I can always recognize it when I talk shit about myself and not to other people, like in my mind. So if I don't like myself, then I'm like, the voice inside my head becomes like an enemy, and I dealt with that a lot growing up without realizing it. And so I can tell people don't like themselves just by how they live, how they treat others, how emotional they are, things like that. I mean, me on a really bad PMS day, I might look like I hate everyone, including myself. Mm-hmm. But I mean, my general understanding is, happiness and jiu-jitsu and all of these things that are in my life, they need to be organized and they need to be prioritized. But what comes first is me, and that's it. And I realized that. And going into training now, it's like you get excited. Oh, maybe she's going to go back and fight and stuff. And I posted on my Instagram, like whatever it leads to. If I go back to training full time and I compete, if I go fight, or I don't do any of that. I mean, I'm not putting any pressure on myself, because if I were in training, I'd be getting out of training every day going, God, you're so stupid. Like you couldn't even finish the round. Like that's so embarrassing. Like your training partners are relying on you, all of these things that you could say to yourself. But luckily I have a team that's very, very, very amazing and sensitive. They're just sensitive people all around. Like they're tough, like they will beat you up, but they are sensitive human beings. And that's who I want to be surrounded by, because they understand human emotion and how it gets involved. So, I mean,
shout out to Anthony Hardock and team DYNAMIX or
DYNAMIX. Yeah.
DYNAMIX. Yes.
Yeah. They are just like, when I got back the first day, I said to him, he's like, oh, how you feeling? I'm like, I just love being here. Like this is it's a safe place. And I know that sounds weird to some people, because it's like, what, does your other gym beat you? Like, do they abuse you or no? But I am, I guess, protected from myself in a way. Like, Anthony will say like, hey, you know, maybe you're feeling like you're not enough. Like he acknowledges my feelings. He acknowledges what I want out of fighting in life. He understands like the sacrifices that I make. Like I drive like 45 minutes in LA traffic on the 405, you know, to get there. And this is when I was going twice a day sometimes too. So
That's crazy.
they just acknowledge all of those things that are human. And I think a lot of training camps, when I came up, I took it as all or nothing. And I'm like, okay, I'm an elite athlete and this is what I do. And even if I'm sore, it doesn't matter. And even if I'm tired, who cares? Don't say it out loud.
Right.
All of these things. And like, I'm 31 and that's not old, but for me because I went full-time jiu-jitsu as a blue belt, like I went deep into it. Like starting 2010, 2011. So for me, it's been a long time that I sacrificed, that I literally stayed at the gym all day at Cobrina's, at Marcelo's, all that. Like wherever I was like, well, this is what I'm going to do. And I'm going to spend money, not make money to do it. So yeah, I've kind of gotten to the point. Yeah. Like I just want to pay attention to myself and I don't want to be weak in the sense of like, I'm so tired. I don't want to train today. Like, no, I'll do it. But I'm so comfortable right now going 3 times a week. Like normally I'd be like, what is this? Like someone who's just starting out, like a white belt, what is this? But no, I'll amp it up. But right now with being so like out of it and not in shape and not used to getting, you know, punched and kicked and wrestled with and stuff, I just think that I just need time to get acclimated again. And so does my body. And like, no one is mad about that. Like, I'm just so used to going and never feeling like I'm doing enough. Like I'm like, or you know, you do tournaments and you do everything in your possible, you know, even a fight, you do everything you can to do the right things, eat the right things, sleep the right amount, take the right supplements, do all these things. And then you don't win. And that's a really hard thing to deal with, or you don't feel right that day. And so you're never, ever, ever going to be at your best. And that's what I realized. And and the people who are able to do this with the waves that happen are the people that recognize that are, you know, there's some people who are like, no, I stick to my routine. If I do my routine, I do the thing well. But, you know, and then things happen and they're like, oh my God, I don't know why I lost, or, oh my God, I don't know why I didn't make weight, or all these things. And it's like, life happens, dude. And I'm so glad to be in a point in my life where I can feel like there's a balance between life and the sport athlete area, because those things are so important. You know,
especially as you're getting older, a little bit older. You're still very young, but especially as you're getting older, that's important to realize.
I think part of it was financial. I got really resentful at jiu-jitsu because when it shut down, you know, the gyms and everything, I was just doing seminars, you know, and I love to teach, but I love to teach seminars. I don't have my own students. I've been asked to. I have weird commitment issues because I never want to stay in one place. So I do regret that. And I think that it would be good for me to start a program, or like to be part of a program and with regular students. But for right now, I love just going to seminars, showing what I show, making people laugh, enjoying the time, and then being like, peace, you know? And so when I was doing that, it became illegal to touch each other with COVID. I was so resentful because I'm like, here I am. I spent my whole life like learning all of these things and being able to like run my own business. Like this is a business that's not even treated as a business. I'm a professional athlete that doesn't even get treated like a professional because there's no professional. They're the only real thing is like IBJJF, and they're a for-profit company. They are not for jiu-jitsu. They're a for-profit company.
They don't have a 401k for the athletes or anything.
Yeah, like there's no like just professional organization, you know? And it's like, it's kind of like when I was taking photos for all the athletes and stuff. And then if I sold one, I'd be like, here, have a download for $20. And someone would say, you know, as soon as you sell something, you're a professional. And I was like, okay, so if I fight for jiu-jitsu and I win, which I've done, and I've earned money, or lost and earned money, okay, that's professional. It's not like MMA where there's like, it's like sanctioned, and it's like, you do this at amateur, you do this at pro, you do this. There's just no sanctioning, I guess you could say. So it's very hard for me to go into the real world and be like, I don't know, I did fuck all for 5 years. Like I had the equivalent of a karate black belt. Like, oh my God, my son, he's 7, he's a black belt too. That's so crushing. So I went through this phase of like, how do I get money now? When I do have I'm like, I do have a degree. I did.
Bachelor's degree. Yeah.
I got the degree. I don't
Yeah.
use it. It's English, hence the writing. But to be told like I can't do jujitsu and I can't make money off of it and I can't pursue my career and I can't go pro for MMA because that was like really, really difficult to be able to like understand that, okay, without jujitsu, what am I? And it was weird. Like even on Instagram when I was posting stuff and I'm like running out of pictures because I'm not training and I'm like, I don't know, here's my face again. Like, here's my dog. But when I am posting and I'm like, I don't know, like, who am I? Like, how am I? I was like, can I even give like advice anymore? Because there's people who are out there training and I'm not. I'm just sitting on my couch, which is apparently what I'm supposed to be doing because, stopping the surge or whatever it was that we were doing. But now I think I'm back to training because I got vaccinated. I did get vaccinated, fully vaccinated. So I feel like I'm superior and like I can go out in the world and feel safe and do seminars and do privates and all those things. But definitely like the balance of having life and having, like, I don't have a family that says, hey, hun, you got a kid to feed. Like, I don't have that. So that's great on my end. But it's also like, I need something that pulls me to keep me like, okay, there's life too. You're good at other things, not just sucking at jujitsu.
Okay, Erin, I'm going to balance out some of what you're saying right now. Everything you're saying is 100% facts, I know, but I got to say the other side. You started, first of all, you're a brown belt under Marcelo freaking Garcia, one of the greatest jiu-jitsu competitors and practitioners of our time. And you're a black belt under Cobrinha, who I know is just a straight savage. You're a highly skilled, highly technical master of Brazilian jiu-jitsu. And I just want to make a shout out to all the women and girls that watch this interview today, that your martial arts mastery and ability to protect yourself is achievable through just constant practice, dedication, and just showing up to class. I think you're a master, Erin, and I'm honored to be talking to you right now. I'm sure so was Kendrick. I just want to add that to what you were just saying. You have achieved and gone through so much through jiu-jitsu, through just the academy. Forget about competition. Competition is even more stressful and have a mind fuck. But just being in the academy every day, being challenged, you're challenged there every day. So you got, if I can say this in the most respectful way, you got balls for going to Marcelo Garcia's from your original instructor, changing schools, following a former relationship, to go and I mean, you're so brave, man. I want to add that to what you were saying just now. You're a very, very brave woman. And yeah.
I think being brave, it's just like I don't like being fearful. I just don't like it. And ever since I started jujitsu and I'm doing something that's so crazy for a female to do. And then I'm like, especially in the beginning, because it's not like, look at me, I'm like Zoro, I don't know. I'm a superhero. I can do whatever I want. It's like, no, dude, I suck. Like, so I'm not only am I a bad white belt, like I'm a female bad white belt. So when I'm a black belt, when I'm a purple belt, when I'm going on a blue belt, I'm a female. It's like guys know how to roll with me and train with me because I know what I'm doing. But then when it's like just a white belt guy and a white belt girl, things can get awkward. Luckily I had friends when I started, like from hardcore, like I had dudes that I knew well and I loved to train with them because I was already comfortable with them. But I don't know, and I feel like people, like women who face their fears, which I did every single day of jiu-jitsu, whether it was social anxiety, whether it was, afraid of puking on the mat because like I was out of shape, or doing something wrong, or getting submitted, or getting my guard pass, all these things, I was doing them. Maybe I wasn't doing them gracefully. Maybe I cried. Maybe I had a temper tantrum. Maybe I was like, cool, that was easy. But I overcame so many different things to do that, to even start jujitsu, to even get a blue belt, to even, go up the ranks. So I would say that I'm definitely a black belt in like going for what I want. And if I'm afraid of it, I mean, obviously I have to go the pros and cons. Like I'm not just going to get dropped off in like Africa and be like, cool, let's go teach jujitsu. Like I'm not going to make stupid things like, well, like I'm just going to go try it because I'm brave, but I make calculated decisions and I say, okay, this is scary and I may not know how it's going to go, but having a safety net, having my mom, having a good support system really led me to that. So I always had help, but being brave, I feel like for females, is a little bit different. It's like when we say like men are brave, because men are supposed to be brave, right? So if someone goes out of their way to call you brave, you're like extra brave. Because like as a man, you're already a level of brave because you're just a man. And then there's like, wow, you really are the brave of the brave, you know? And so when I say that women are brave, we're not even supposed to be brave, right? And so brave woman, those aren't two things that go together a lot. And I think that it's really, really simple. And I didn't start out to be brave because I'm still scared shitless of so many things because of my anxiety and things that are telling me like you suck and all those things that everyone kind of has to deal with. I definitely just think that going towards something and taking it as it is, like people might, like my mom even gets kind of worried because I start on these paths and I'll be really, really into it. And then I'll change paths. Like when I decided I was going to go into fire, I really wanted to do fire. I did everything. I applied to all these different places. I flew out to Arlington, Virginia to go take a test. And then I did the physical test and I failed. I failed at the orientation, I failed at the practice, and I failed at the actual thing. And I know that there are plenty of women who have failed. That's fine. You just go back. But as I saw, and as I got deeper and I finished the EMT program, and I got everything, I passed the test, I got the license, I got everything. I got the ability to work in LA. And doing those things and realizing like, I don't know, I guess I don't want to go do fire. Like I go back to training and my wrestling coach is like, oh, so are you saving lives yet? And I'm like, I don't think I want to do that anymore. And people are like, what? Like you have a goal and then you just sort of not want to do it anymore. Like are you failing? Are you giving up? And I'm like, no, I learned everything I could about it and just wasn't maybe the right fit or the right time. Maybe I go back and I try it again, but in the right time. And so I just feel like being brave. I'm going off on a rant, I know.
It's
but
okay.
being brave for a female is just trying new things. Like, do you know what I mean? Like we say that like kids are brave when they try like a blueberry and they don't spit it out. It's like little things. I treat myself like I'm a kid. Like I wear children's clothing. I go to Target and it's way cheaper. So I just buy children's clothing all the time, like the leggings and everything. Like I'm a kid at heart. And I think that's the best thing you can do. The best people to be around are kids at heart because they understand like emotion and they're not jaded and they're not hardened by the world. And so just as we say, be a white belt, you know, even if you're a black belt, when you step on the mat, you're a white belt, like be ready to absorb, be ready to learn, get your ego out the door. That's what I kind of like to take the approach in life and be like, screw it. Like be a white belt, be new at something, you know?
Erin, don't you think the fact that you went through the EMT program, the test that you took and the physical training and you experienced that, doesn't that allow you to make a more like sure decision whether that's for you or not, or realize if that's for you or not?
Yeah. And I think that's okay. And I get it. Like I'm still living with my mom and I'm 31 and you know, I like to put myself down for those reasons. And then I
I lived
realized
with my grandmother in some aspect because one reason we're very close since I was a kid, and the other reason it was convenient for me, I think until I was like, my early 30s to mid 30s.
Right. Yeah. Like it's weird because you think of grandma's boy and you're like, oh God, I can't be that guy. But really it is.
It's all right.
That's life.
She's like my mom in some ways. So
yeah, like my mom is actually really, really cool and everyone loves her. And like, they're just like, oh, this is great. And so it's awesome. I watch the fights every weekend and she watches the fights with me. Even if I'm not here, she orders the fights. She'll watch them alone.
oh, nice. Oh, she is cool. Dang.
She's definitely a roommate. Like,
Heck yeah.
you know, and we've worked it out since I've been back since 2016. So it's been a while, especially with pandemic, like being with each other all day, every day.
Right.
It was good. It was good for our relationship, but
Nice.
it's having that safety net that allows me to do the things that I do. And so when people say you live such a cool life, like you could just fly to another country and sleep on someone's couch, I'm like, yeah, but like you take for granted the things that you do have. And I've been in the past, I've been on podcasts and I'd be like, you know, having kids and a family, like that's the nobody life. And people get really offended. And I realized that because, you know, I just wanted to like be a world champion. I wanted to be so good at jiu-jitsu and all that. That's kind of how I see it. But also I'm like, you're not going to be able to live the life that I live if you already have 2 kids and a wife. Like maybe
100.
took them with you, but like it's just
It's gonna be hard.
I chose. I've put off so many things. I've put off kids and, you know, more serious relationships and jobs, most importantly, and financial security and all those things. I've turned them down. And that's why I live the way I live. And I deal with the sacrifices that I have and the benefit, you know, and everyone has their life choices, but I just chose something so different that people are like, wow, that's really brave. And I agree. But in more so than brave, it's really, really scary. And so, yeah, like living with my mom, like I have months where I just sit at home and I'm like, wow, am I an athlete? And then other times I'm fully in the game. Like when I was at Black House, for example, I know you wanted to talk about that. Like
Yes,
I was in the best shape of my life.
Gangsta.
So yeah, I don't know what you want to know about Black House. That was
just a gist. Just a gist. Let's vote before we go there, Erin. One of the main reasons why one of the reasons I want to have you on was to talk about women's self-defense. It's a big topic these days. It's always a big topic. You know, I have a mother, I have a grandmother, I have a daughter, I have a sister. And Kendrick, I know you have women in your life as well, family members and so forth. We would never, we would go find someone if anyone hurt our family, especially women. They're, so do you feel like women are constantly attacked? They're sexually assaulted, they're verbally assaulted, they're made to feel inferior in the streets. That sometimes a lot of times they can't walk around at night without being followed. I'm sure you more experienced this than I do, as I'm a man, you're a woman. Kendrick, you're a man. From your perspective, I want to ask you a question. You being a high-level jiu-jitsu black belt, a student and instructor in martial arts for a good portion of your life, you've done jiu-jitsu at a very, very high level. You fought mixed martial arts before. You've engaged in physical combat. Do you feel if you were attacked at night and you're by yourself by a man, let's say hand to hand, do you feel like you'd be able to defend yourself effectively with the training you have?
I'd like to think. And my focus for so long was always on sport jiu-jitsu. I didn't even know takedowns. I would just, I knew them because we trained them, but I never used them. I always just grabbed a sleeve and sat. And I'd make jokes that if I ever got caught in the street, I'd just pull guard. Which isn't the worst thing. I think it's actually easier to defend myself from crazy blows from someone bigger or whatever. But I don't think I ever took self-defense seriously when I was starting out. Like it was part of my Gracie Baja curriculum when I was with Hamala Bahal when I first started. So yeah, I know how to get out of a headlock. I know how to disengage certain things, or if someone comes behind me and you throw them, like I know those things because I was taught them. Right. But I can't say that they would come to mind if I were being attacked. So I remember seeing I think it was Hillary Williams, who doesn't even compete anymore because she went in to be a neurologist, but she is one now. But she was my idol. She won the world as a brown belt when it was still brown and black belts. I think like 2010, maybe.
Hillary Williams.
Yes.
I gotta look her up. Okay.
So she's like a kind of like poster girl for us and like the American gringa type jiu-jitsu person.
Interesting.
It was amazing. But I remember her saying like, you know, these self-defense classes are horrible. Like these workshops. If a woman comes in and learns something for an hour, you think that she's going to remember that one move that she learned in that 1 hour when something happens 5 years later? So the idea of self-defense is to train self-defense, to train. So it's kind of like solving math problems, right? So there are certain kinds that if someone gives you a problem and you're like, okay, this person has that many watermelons, and if they take that many away, right? But what if I said there was oranges? And if you couldn't take that concept and be like, you know, whatever it stands in for, like the variable, it wouldn't matter. So the way that you learn is by an overall concept, more so than just singular techniques. We do the techniques, obviously, because we need to know how these all come together to perform a full technique. But concepts and just saying, okay, if someone is here, someone tries to take you down, okay, you make your hips heavy, you do this, you do that. Those are better. So I always think that just throwing into like a jiu-jitsu class is great. Going into a martial arts class in general, I mean, obviously like Muay Thai, something that's actually going to hurt people, and with contact and being able to fully contact spar. I mean, those are the things, because it's that adrenaline, and we all know. I don't remember, to be honest, my first roll. I don't know if you do, but like there's adrenaline. Like there's adrenaline, and you're just like, I don't even know which way is up, you know. And imagine if you imagine if you were, you know, someone who was being attacked and it's literally life or death. Like how do you react? So being high up on your heart rate and the adrenaline and all those things, that's what has prepared me to deal with it. Have I ever had to? No. One dude stole our bag in Miami and we like chased after him and stuff like that. But I've never been physically attacked by a man. Knock on wood. And part of that I think is victim, like being a victim. So women are taught to be victims. Like we are the victim. This is the statistic, you know, not that men are always, looked at as like a perpetrator or whatever, but yes, race, gender, age, all of these, what you're wearing can all make you either look a victim or look as a perpetrator, you know? And I think one of the rules is keeping your head up high. Like it's the weirdest thing. When I was in Girl Scouts, because it was like the only thing I did. I wasn't an athlete growing up.
Yeah, you had a huge Girl Scouts career. That's right. In your childhood.
Oh yeah,
right?
oh yeah. I was doing the tournaments. We were doing tippy canoe. We were doing crazy. I learned code flags and Morse code and all that. But I remember they said if you're ever scared in the dark, because I was like practically a kid, they're like just have a finger gun. Like walk through with a finger gun. And I'm like, you're joking. And they're like, it makes you feel better. You know, you're like, who's here? Or you get up to go pee at night and your mind's like, oh my God, there's something behind the shower.
Yeah.
Put up some finger guns. And then I realized that acting like a victim without realizing it makes you a victim, which is a very controversial thing to say. I'm not saying that, it's our fault. It's not our fault at all. But I'm just saying, like, changing my life was jiu-jitsu, to be able to walk with my head up high. Am I in my phone all the time? Yes. But if I'm in an unfamiliar area, if it's dark, if I'm more at risk, I'm obviously going to be paying attention. I've been to Brazil. I went there alone. I was walking the streets of Brazil by myself, and I had my brown belt at the time, and I felt like the coolest person ever. Because I was like, don't fuck with me. Are they still going to fuck with me? For sure. Did I get fucked with? No, because I was lucky or whatever it is. So I can't say like, oh yeah, I've defended myself and this is the reason it works or whatever. But holding your head high, being aware of your surroundings, being able to be more ready or aware, just that, okay, this is more dangerous. And having jiu-jitsu is like, just weird. Like when someone's body is on me, I'm going to react a different way. I'm going to use it and I'm going to get, it's like, those are my instincts automatically. Those are my instincts. So training for like the whole thing, like the journey itself is the best way, rather than very specific things. Like if someone grabs you from behind, do this. It's like, this person doesn't know how to throw. I suck at throws. I've been training for how many years and I suck at throws. You think maybe I can throw someone, maybe. I'm not great at it, but how is Susan Mama 3 gonna remember that and be able to do it if she hasn't practiced it 10,000 times, I don't know if that answers your question, but that's kind of like my stance on self-defense. And it's so important. But again, you have to train in a discipline, I feel, if you want to for sure be safe, because it's not what you know, it's not what you learn, it's what you're going to do in that exact moment. And especially with weapons, like I'm going to run.
Yeah, me too.
I'm definitely going to run. Like I'm not going to try to fight anyone. That's why my only fight I've ever been in, besides getting pushed by a girl named Nicole in 6th grade, and she like accidentally scratched my ear. It was my first MMA fight, which was November 2019. That was my first real fight of like someone actually trying to hurt me and punch me in the face.
All right, what was that experience like since we're on it? You used to doing jiu-jitsu and then you're in a cage fighting. I've been there. I've been lucky enough to do that and train with the best in the Bay Area, Northern California. What was that experience like for you? I know it's a little backstory. I don't know if you want to get into that. You don't have to. I think I remember hearing there's a little backstory involved, but other than that, what was anything, and just whatever you want to share about it, what was, how did the fight go down? What was your experience fighting for real in the cage?
Well, I knew my opponent. She was my old training partner. She came up in weight because I couldn't find anyone to fight me. And then she was like dating a guy that I had been hooking up with before. And it was just like weird. And then I was like, what is she, why does she want this fight with me? Like I knew her coach I just saw her coach yesterday. We was like, hey man,
what's going on?
Old coach. Yeah. I'm like, it was just weird. I'm like, because like I didn't understand what it meant when someone wanted to fight you. Because normally fighting words is like, she doesn't like me. It was weird because I'm like, but I know her. And we hadn't talked in a while, and I'm like, I don't know why she's doing this. And I'm like, maybe she's trying to make a name off of me, and maybe, you know. And I'm just thinking all these things. And Anthony was just like, dude, if you want to fight, then fight. Like it's a fight. You've been training to fight. Here's a fight. Then do the fight. And I'm like, okay, all right, let's do it. So that was automatically weird. Plus, I had left Black House, and I was on bad terms with the coach there. And he was there coaching some fighters. So I had to tell the promoter, I was like, keep me separate. I want to be on the red side, not, you know, just like stupid stuff, you know, that's real, like, though.
That's real. I get that.
Then it was really cold. I had to go across the street because it's the Long Beach Convention Center. I had to go grab some sweats from Forever 21. I had my sister, when she arrived to watch, give me her socks because it was so damn freezing. These are all these things that I'm like, oh my God, this is insane. Like, again, going back to everything has to be perfect if I'm going to be able to win, if I'm going to have all the things. Then I go and we're getting ready, and I go to the cage, and I see someone who's a UFC fighter that I used to train with that I don't like, that bullied me. And I just think that she's a huge, just a bitch, right? And she's right there going, so I got all these things in my head, and I'm like, oh my God. And I'm not like, and I know what it's like to compete at a high level in jiu-jitsu, but in MMA, I'm still just, I'm like, I don't know, man. I got shin guards on. They're like the size of, like this thick as cardboard. And because I've never, you know, I don't really want to know what it's like until I go pro to like kick without shin guards on. But you know, I'm at my first fight, and I'm not getting babied, but in a way, you know. And then I look, and I'm like, oh, there's that girl, you know. And then I look across the cage, and by that time, it was more like, we're gonna give a show. Like this was like, yeah, let's do this. So there was no angst, there's no nothing. I kind of read her body language at weigh-ins. So when I went in thinking, okay, I'm gonna strike. She's a striker. She's not a jiu-jitsu person. But if I'm going to take this fight seriously, I'm going to use it to the best of my advantage. And I need to know what it feels like to get punched in the face. Not like I'm going to stand there and be like, all right, let's try this. But to engage, full on engage in the striking. Like I took some shots, and I was like, all right, I can do that. That's fine. You know, okay, some low kicks that I don't like checking. Okay, that's fine. But I had no mark. Like, yeah, like I felt, and it almost made me more mad. Like it was like, okay, yeah, let's go, you know? And not many people can say that from jiu-jitsu. People go into jiu-jitsu because they don't want to get punched in the face. They don't go 10 years in jiu-jitsu and then like, this isn't enough for me.
It's not a common thing.
It's like someone going like, you know, they've been smoking weed for their whole life, and they're like, you know what? I'm gonna try crack. It's like that extreme. Usually you try crack, you get it out of your system, and then you gotta go back to smoking weed.
It's not a common transition from jiu-jitsu black belt or brown belt or just jiu-jitsu expert, jiu-jitsu purist.
Right.
MMA. It's not the most common. It's usually a wrestler or a kickboxer or a hybrid. And so you went into it as a jiu-jitsu purist.
I was a snob. Like I came from all the highest, you know, IBJJF certified gyms, and I was always in the IBJJF and the UAEJJF rankings, and very like traditional. And then MMA is not, because you can bring your own tradition to it, but there is no MMA tradition. It's a free for all. But that was what was so exciting to me. It was full on like everything is a weapon. Get out there, try to hurt the person. And in jiu-jitsu, you don't. You like if you hurt someone, you're a dick. Like there's a better way to do it.
You're a bully.
You're leaning on them. It's like, you know, you're leaning on you're using their forearm on their neck and stuff. It's like, yeah, that's great for competition, but in training, you're going to be a dick. So it was very hard for me, one, in training to do fake punches for ground and pound. Because I'm like,
it is a little weird. Yeah.
It's weird. I'm like, I don't know. Like I'm a bull in a china shop. Like, I don't know how to be gentle, but I'm going to try this out. And like to play pretend was weird. And then also, you know, jiu-jitsu, I thought made me soft, you know? So going into MMA and like waiting a whole year before I even had a fight was actually really good, because I toughened up. Like I just in general toughened up, because you're not going to not get hit. Like you're going to get hit. You're in the line of fire. The idea is not to avoid, you know, as much damage. But the first round was, it's quick. It's amateur. I think it was 3 minutes. And then,
3 minutes. Okay.
I got an eye poke. Like, I mean, I don't know. I don't think I did because we do this, we push, you know, and I don't think it was the glove, but anyway, so they almost stopped it and I'm like standing in the corner or whatever.
No.
So anyways, after when we started the second round, all was good. She continued to fight and stuff. And that's when I went for a takedown. She went to kick and I kicked it like the same time, like caught her kick, followed it through the takedown, got into mount. And then she was like clamping my glove. So like I couldn't get it out. And I'm like, how do I get this out? Cause I wanted to go for an armbar. And then I was like, oh yeah, give me my arm back. And then after, when I got it back, I'm like, now I have two. And it was just like, and I was expecting her to turn and then the ref called it and I was in shock.
TKO, baby. TKO.
It was like, oh my, it was cathartic. I started
happy due to strikes.
Because I'm looking like this girl that hates me, that wanted me to lose. This other girl's literally fighting me, wants me to lose. I mean, my old coach, you know, all those things like I had against me. And I'm just like, it just came out. And I was like, oh my God.
Is there a video of that?
Feeling.
Is there a video of that?
So I've been asking the promotion for the video since 2019.
Okay.
And I was like, yeah, we got it coming up. And they never sent it to me. So I have one of the promoters, she had it live, like on her phone from like a Facebook Live. So it's real shit quality. But I'm like, please, man, this might be my first and last MMA fight. Like, can you please find this footage? But, and then the craziest thing in my head is there are two female jiu-jitsu aces, like one, Jenna Bishop, who beat me at both worlds and ADCC trials and is sort of like one generation like ahead of me in terms of like American jiu-jitsu. I used to call her Kelly Clarkson because she kind of looks like her. And she is older than me. She's been in the game longer than me. And I've never heard her talk about MMA, but she started training with Kat Zingano and then she signed with LFA. She's going pro without ever being in a fight. That's insane, you know? And then there was Gigi Canuto, one of my friend Hector Vasquez's girls out of Vegas, Corbina Jiu-Jitsu out there. She just fought her first LFA pro fight and won.
What's her name?
Gigi Canuto, Giovanna Canuto.
I got Fight Pass. I'm gonna look it up.
She's 18. She's a baby. 18? And I'm like,
damn.
Oh my God, talk about brave, you know? Like, I obviously people are like, you could go pro. I'm like, yeah, I could. I have Instagram followers. I have a solid base. I have a name. Yeah, like I you know, one of these organizations might help me build up, you know, but I didn't want to. My coach didn't want to. It's very important for me to get in there and feel it out because if I get pro and I don't want to waste anyone's time. I don't want to waste my time. I don't want to get into something that I can't handle, you know? And how do you train
with a lot of named UFC fighters at Shoot to Box too? So you were in the room with a lot of female UFC fighters, correct? A couple of them at least.
No, I only trained at Black House. So when I was
Black House. My bad.
Yeah. So I trained there. Anderson Silva was still fighting and Lyoto Machida was still fighting. And they would come in on the Friday sparring days. So the first day I ever sparred, they were both on the mat.
Anderson Silva, Kendrick.
Yeah.
And the first thing I did was throw a kick and the guy threw a kick and our knees hit. And I was like Peter Griffin, like in the corner somewhere. Other times, like I would just be crying somewhere. I remember, you know, if someone had a fight, they could take the cage. So if one of the UFC girls had a fight and they'd be, okay, Erin, you're going to be round 3 for her or whatever. You do the 5 minutes in the cage. And I was out crying because I was training with the girl that I had actually fought. And I got a single leg off of her kick and I'm like, I'm doing something right. And then she starts punching me in the face and I'm like, this is bullshit. I suck at this. So I was in the back crying and then, you know, the coach calling me out and he's like, where is she? And I'm like, okay. And I go in there and I choke her out.
Oh, yes.
You know, and he was like,
dang.
I think everyone was like, this is weird. You were crying and then you beat a UFC fighter in a round, like crying. And so now I have a sweater that says, I may cry, but I can still get things done.
Oh, nice. And, that's
cynic. That's huge. So being a female, Black House was tough and tough not in the sense of like, it was tough for me. It's just tough. Like there's no crying in baseball there. Like it's you know, I was like chosen because of my jujitsu. They were like, oh, you'll be great, you'll be fine, you know. And then no one sat there and told me the basics of a punch. No one did that for me. So they're just like, do the combo and do it better. And I'm just like, I don't know. And they're like, well, then figure it out. Like, it was tough, you know. And part of that was good, and part of that was bad. And I was driving an hour and a half. So I got my friend at the time had a teardrop trailer that she had, and it was staying in my house because I had property. So I brought it down there, and during the week I slept in that thing in the parking lot in Compton. It was a half a block from Compton, and it was in Gardena, not in a great area, industrial area. And here's little me sleeping in my little trailer, you know, getting up to pee at night, walking to the building, and then, you know, coming back. But it was the ultimate thing. Like, I was in the best shape of my life. I wish I had had a fight. I was supposed to have a fight that June, but it fell through. But I was on meal prep, popping in my meals every day in the microwave and just being like, sweet. You know, that was the perfect situation because I didn't have to think. I was fully submerged.
Yeah.
And it was cool. Like, they always had people coming in like with products being like, here, we'll just give your athletes free stuff as long as they post it on their Instagram, because obviously it's a great place for influencers and this and that. And they were building up the amateur team, and it just got really toxic, and it wasn't a good fit for me. Like I said, like with Anthony being like, I understand, like, you don't have to have everything together right now. Just having that easy. And I used to think that was weak. I used to think that if I can't handle it, if I can't handle the training room, then I'm not going to make it. And I was told that so many times.
Damn.
And because I'm a female, and because I can't hide my emotions, like if I roll my eyes, I used to get in trouble. Yeah, I do. I really, really do. And that's a good thing and a bad thing. And people aren't used to that, because, I mean, it's not like Anderson Silva gets punched and he's like, oh, why'd you do that, man?
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? So it was different for the coaches. I think I was definitely different. And I hope they learned something from it, like to have someone who is emotional, who is, you know, who wears their emotions. There was Adeline Gray, the Olympic wrestler. There was an article that she wrote where she was crying at training, and her coach was like, nobody else is crying, like, stop crying. And she went to her therapist, and she said, I don't understand how it's okay for men to lash out with their emotion, which is usually anger, right? They go and they punch a wall or something, and we're just like, oh, boys being boys, you know. But if females cry, and so her therapist said, are you able to still do things? Like, are you able to still train even if you start crying? And she's like, well, yeah, you know, I push through and I just sort of get through it. And then she's like, so what's the problem? So it's okay for men to lash out with anger, or for anyone to be like angry, you know, but it's not okay to be emotional or to feel bad, or, you know, have those very, very real emotions that are going to come up when you're learning something and you don't feel like you're good at it because you're not good at it, because you're trying something new. All those things that you face are normal emotions, and people have a hard time with that. And I agree, like, you should never go to training being like, I'm going to go talk to someone while I'm training with them and hopefully they'll solve all my problems, and treat it like a therapy session. By all means, no, like, be there to do the work. But if it's hard, and if you show that it's hard, you're not a failure. I always show that it's hard. Everything's kind of hard for me in some way or another. This wasn't made for me, you know, being a female. So yeah, like, I've learned to really, really lighten up on myself there. Like, that's really, really important.
I love the vibe that you described there at DYNAMIX MMA with Anthony Hardog. Yeah, Baloo. So her stand-up kickboxing coach, Anthony Hardog, where she went from where Erin went from Black House to DYNAMIX MMA, where she feels that she's that's where she feels more home for her training now. She's got a great support system there. That man and that coach, Anthony Hardog, I think his coach, Ernesto the Perfect Hoost. I think I sent a highlight video of him. I DM'd it to you a while back. Ernesto Hoost. That's Anthony, kickboxing legend, killer, just leg kicking everybody to death.
And everything.
That's her coach's former coach, Ernesto Perfect Hoost. So Anthony Hardog. That's the video I sent you. That's her coach's coach. So he comes from a lineage of just incredible kickboxers from Holland. And I've heard this from other people around the way, but also hear this from you, Erin, that he has a very effective system where he is able to train everyone. They can effectively learn stand up with a system of combos and drills that he uses that people really take to it. So could we just go over Anthony Harddock's system a little bit and how you thrive there, and then I'll give you to my man Kendrick, and then we'll start to let you go.
So the system there was, I went to the beginner classes. I wear a white shirt there. All the grappling, if I take the wrestling class, I can wear a black shirt because the black belt in Jiu Jitsu, it sort of correlates the grappling and they respect that. So, but I am a total white belt, right? And I'm still a white belt. I've been training there for, well, I don't know, COVID kind of shut that down. Let's not talk about it. But I've been there for a little while now. I've fought under their name and everything. And like, I get it. Like in Jiu Jitsu, we learn a system, which is here's our position, here's our goals, here's what we want to defend, here's what we want, like here's what we're trying to do. And these are all the little things that you need to worry about along the way. So it was the first time that I learned how to defend. Everyone always talks about kind of just boom, boom, you know, different things, but we rotate. So there's a lot of footwork and there's a lot of rotation. So sometimes we do MMA classes where we literally just do drills with our footwork. You're stepping with the punch, like your feet move with your hands. And that was hard for me. I fall over. I do like a cross and my back leg goes behind, and because I'm super flexible and other things. So it was hard for me, but it was like, all right, as long as I do this, and we'll do very specific training with it. Okay, guys, try to keep rhythm. All right, so I'm going to block. I'm going to block with one. I'm going to punch, block, punch, block, punch, and just do this and get the rhythm, right? And then you're able to add other things. And it was like, okay, we block this way, we block this way, we block this way. And it's conceptual. It's like, okay, if you are confronted with this, do this. And the footwork is you're always moving. And I was never moving enough. And so Lucas Drews, who's an amazing kickboxer, hasn't gone pro yet, but will. He's like a mini Anthony, still huge because Anthony is huge. But he teaches the system really well. And so he's like the coach to coaching for my fight and stuff. So he will show the moves very crisp because you don't need a lot of power with it. So when we spar, we're able to completely spar technically without hurting one another. And it's like, we don't go crazy. Like, especially if someone goes light to kick me, I don't catch it and take them down, taking advantage of them being nice, things like that. So so Lucas would say, dance, Erin, dance. And so that I remember just to keep my feet moving, because everything about Anthony's system is being in balance and always pulling back, because you always want to be centered and balanced and swing steps. Like I could go on for days about it because it's like, it's definitely something that works well with the wrestling that Vladimir Matyuchenko,
yeah,
janitor. That's where I just trained with today. It's hilarious. Best coach, just loves it. And so the footwork goes the same. So we might do a step and be the same as step. And so it's very easy to blend, and they get along so well. Their systems go well together with the footwork, and it's perfect. And I don't know if you've seen Jordan Wright. Jordan Wright has had 2 fights in the UFC now. He got called up and he beat his first opponent with just the clinch, all clinch.
No, I'll look him up too as well. I'll check him out. It sounds familiar though.
But he did all clinch stuff. And so we do a lot of clinch, and he talks about being physical. So for my fight, it was move, push, punch. So he believes, okay, so if I'm going to punch, I can do more things than that. And they start coming towards me. I can pull them. I can push them. I can pull them here. I can trip them. So it's like using their momentum. And he goes, I want you to be physical. I'm like, good. Because my favorite thing is being able to touch someone. Like, okay, I know where you are now. That's jiu-jitsu. Yeah. So being able to get into those positions that are good for me with taking minimal damage and knowing, when to go, how to go, like to shoot. It's just, it's good.
Being a smart fighter.
It's so smart. And he does like a fighter training. It's like intermediate training, but it's basically like all the fighters. And he will always kind of come in and say, this is what I want to work on. This is why I see a lot of you doing this. And this is what I want to fix. This is why it's bad. This is what can happen. And then we just train off of that. And the best thing is like specific training. We always we'll go, okay, one person punches, one person kicks. So you can defend, but you have to only use your legs or your hands. And then, okay, one person, okay, you keep the same stance. Okay, now we're gonna do opposite stance. I'm gonna do parallel stance. And so it's all these different situations that get your brain working. It's not about how hard you can punch. It's not about how many times you can submit someone. Like, who cares? It's about how well you can defend yourself, how well you can stay in base. And that's what I love. The responsibility is entirely on you. And I love that because I'm like, okay, it's solely up to me to win this fight. It's not like, well, if the person does this, we're going to, no, we do this. This is our bubble. This is our stance. And this is what we do. And I think that was like the most amazing part about learning that, especially coming from somewhere where they're like, just do the punch, just punch. You know, 1, 2, 1, 2. You know what I mean? I'm like, I'm not there yet. I barely figured out this is 1. And then being Southpaw, Jesus. I mean, being a Southpaw is so hard because people were like, I don't know what to do with you.
Yeah, I noticed that from one of your sparring pictures. You're a Southpaw. Yeah,
I am.
You're staying Southpaw. Interesting.
Yeah. I could do both. Obviously, I prefer left, and like I can shoot from both sides and I can do everything, but obviously I'm more wired because I'm left-handed. So that's what I like.
Yeah, I had an opportunity to work 2 or 3 times with taking seminars, and he would just come in and teach us too. He would just be in town and just train us, like full-on training sessions with Rob Kamen. You know, he's a legend in kickboxing. I'm sure Anthony Hart knows him. Yeah, Rob Kamen, OG from like the 80s and 90s.
Okay.
Yeah, so Anthony knows him for sure. Yeah, those Dutch champions, they just have kickboxers like Anthony. They're ahead of the game in terms of just having systems in place to teach stand-up defense and offense and footwork effectively. So yeah, and I deep dived into Anthony's Instagram and his school. Where are they located? I want to visit there one day.
Yeah, Santa Monica is the main location. We also have
okay.
like a location that we're using now, which is it's pretty much Santa Monica, but it's right off the 405 at Olympic and Sepulveda. But
okay.
It's called ep4 DYNAMIX, but they're doing construction on the original. And I heard today they're going to open up the original place. It's on Santa Monica Boulevard, like the 18th or something. So we're finally getting back. Everything's sort of like opening up again. And I have to admit, like, and again, this is also something where I had to deal with being weak or not. Like, they had classes going on pretty much this whole time, but they had them outside, and most of it was during the summer. And I literally was like, I don't want to work out outside. Like,
really?
Part of me would have been like, that's so weak. Like, don't you want to fight? But there were no fights happening. There were no competitions happening. So I wasn't really missing anything. And I was like, you know, and part of me is like, who cares? Train outside. Do you want it bad enough? And I'm like, I guess not.
Yeah. Well, important thing is that you're back in action now. I'd love to see you in the cage again if you ever choose that. Just that's me personally. With your pedigree. And so what do you got for Erin, Kendrick? Anything? We can't keep her all day, although I'd love to.
About your sister and some boxing. So is your sister a martial artist as well? And has she offered a sense of or a form of unintentional competition in that of martial arts? Or tell us about that.
Your sister taught you how to box, right? It's like a joke, but kind of
no, my sister doesn't train at all. I've given her like one jiu-jitsu lesson, and she's like,
I watched the interview you did on
BJJ Goons.
And you were talking about a story where your sister was throwing hands
down low and then come up high.
I was probably
upside the head. I thought your sister had martial arts talent at some point or somehow as well.
My sister's 3 years older and was like a bully growing up. Like, like she tripped me. My mom was like, I thought you were the clumsiest kid. I was falling over. And apparently my sister was just like, oop. My sister was always rough on me, and it was like weird because like she was kind of athletic, but even now she's not athletic. She just, you know, she works in a lab, she's got a house, a husband, got a dog, you know, all like the traditional things. And then she's not physical, and like I've done like a private with her, like where I taught her some jujitsu, and she's great. I've taught her some striking, but she doesn't ever want to keep up with it. She's like, I'm tired. I worked a lot. I'm like, you do it. So like, I get it. Like she could if she wanted to, but she got the shit knees. So her knees used to like dislocate when she would play volleyball when she was like 11. So she doesn't really have like the same genetics that I do. You know, I'm just a little different.
Yeah.
But yeah, so my sister has nothing for me to learn except for when we were little. and she would like do those things and be like, bah. And that was the classic like body head, you know, and she just had those instincts. So I'm sure in any situation, no one could fuck with her. Like she just whip out like all these skills just from watching me over the years, because she's that smart. She's definitely more of like book smart, but yeah.
Okay. You said something a while ago also, saying you prioritize your mental well-being. I think it's so simple to the point and profound, you know, and it's having your mental well-being intact is, I mean, just key to so many other things. I mean, with what you do with the martial arts, and I mean, just living. You said that a while ago, and I really enjoyed that. You know, and I knew I wanted to share that with you when I had an opportunity to talk, you know, in that. Thanks for sharing that, because that was encouraging to me, and I'm sure it's encouraging to many others that are watching this and that heard it in the previous interview. So that's good stuff. What would you say to women that are curious about martial arts training, or curious about taking a similar path, or a path somewhat reminiscent to what you've taken in your journey? Because, you know, you spoke about bravery and that. I mean, and it's a true statement, because certain things are more acceptable or accessible for different kinds of people or whatever, you know. But this is definitely something that, I mean, it's more common in this day and age.
Yeah.
But even still, there are women that are shy and uncomfortable in the possibility of potential of doing something that, like what you've done. But what would you say? How would you encourage them to proceed with?
And sorry if I can interject, maybe just being an athlete, like a girl or female that wants to even just pursue martial arts, or is a professional athlete as yourself, like what would be your advice to them, especially if they tend to put a lot of pressure on themselves, you know?
Yeah, I would say join the community first. So we have like a Facebook, like Women's Grappling Network, which is great. Like, I don't speak too much in there. It's a lot of like white belts saying, how do I tie my hair? I'm having this issue. Do you train on your period? You know, all those things that you're gonna find, you may not find when you walk into a gym. Sometimes if you live in a place where there are a lot of girls that train, that's great. Locker room talks are amazing. But if you don't, connect online. That's the great thing about it. Reach out to people like me, follow people on Instagram, like get used to it first beforehand, because if you can go in there blind. And if you're an athlete, if you're like being physical is something that's important to you, or you're used to having like contact with people or whatever it is, I mean, go for it. Just like that's the hardest part. Like when I got back to training 2 weeks ago, Anthony goes, yeah, but you're here. That's the hardest part. You came back, you're here, you're training. So it took me a year to get into a school, because I had a lot of issues with just social anxiety. And I also had a lot of acne. I was actually taking Accutane, and I would still wear makeup. And then like makeup would get on someone's gi. I'd be like, sorry, it washes out, you know? But really I wasn't trying to look pretty. I just wanted to like hide the fact that I look like I'm 13 and going through puberty. But I've had acne my whole life. And so I just started a new skincare, and I'm trying to focus on that. But
your face.
there's a lot of things that go into being a female, right? Because we care about, a lot of females care about those things, you know? But definitely like people with a sense of humor are going to fare well in jiu-jitsu. So if you have a sense of humor, you're going to do great. And starting out, like I said, like join the Facebook groups, ask around, follow on Instagram. Like we're all here. Like I teach fight tips. I have some videos on YouTube. Like look at what it is.
I watched the one with Shane Faison where you tapped him out like 3 or 4 times. That was so funny. That was so good.
I love Shane, dude. Like he's
cool.
So funny. People are like, people think that he's like the biggest square and he's like this biggest nerd. They're like, does he even fight? It's like, hell yeah, he does. Yeah. He is a technician, and he is hilarious and so down to earth. And one of those people that you're like, I'm so glad to be friends with you. You're like a friend.
He looks like it. Totally.
And they gave me the opportunity to film for them. So when they were in Redondo Beach, I would go, I'd go over there and we'd go in their fight tips garage and be able to film and be part of that. And hopefully we could do something in the future, but I know you moved back to Philly. But yeah, I have things online, like use those resources to dabble, do your own. And then I have to also say, you talked about Kendrick, you said accessibility. I am so lucky. I am so, so lucky to live in LA because the first gym that I ever walked into to sign up was Hamala Bahal's gym. That's like amazing. He's top level. Then, okay, oh, Cobrina's opening up in LA. I guess I'll go train with him. Did I have to drive like 30, 40 extra minutes? Yes, but worth it. And then living in New Jersey and New York and training under Marcelo, it was like, I got lucky because I met Gianni, and then Gianni, ended up going over there and whatever. I mean, I got lucky to be able to train where I did. If I had grown up in Kentucky or something, it might be hard. So it's maybe there's not a jiu-jitsu gym down your street or every street like it is in California.
Right.
So it's finding out if it's available to you, and if it is, maybe it's just wrestling is so amazing for girls. They're really good at it. We're really, really good at squirming out of things. If it's wrestling, if it's Muay Thai, if it's kickboxing, just make sure that you go to a reputable place, look up the reviews and check it out. And what I would say though, try it out. You do not have to sign up the day you go there. Every place has a free intro. Try it out and get to know the people and really feel. Imagine if you're like this, I'm going to move into this neighborhood. This is the neighborhood I'm going to live in. I want to check it out before I get there. How's my landlord? How's my instructor? How are the people I'm training with? My neighbors, those things.
How's the vibe?
Exactly. Right? Like if it's like a militant vibe and you're not down for that and you're like, whoa, dude, like I'm not trying to compete. I'm just trying to like get in shape or, have a pastime. You don't want someone who's like ripping your arms off when you're like, yo, it just started. But also maybe you want a family environment too. You want to bring your kids in. I mean, there's so many stories of females starting after their kids did or after their like husband did, or if you're like me and you're just like, I want to do man stuff, which is what I said. And I was like, I'm going to go do man stuff.
That's really good advice.
What your sense of humor? Who did you inherit that? Is that something that that your dad passed on to you, your mom, a combination of both? Your sense of humor, who did you get it from?
Dude,
how did you develop?
Okay. Honestly, I've heard this before, that the most depressed people are usually the funniest because they know all emotions. They know the whole span, of emotions and that they can pull from, because drama, is the crying face and the laughing face. And they're so, why do we start crying when we laugh? Things like they're so connected. So I've really been able to take the bad things and kind of joke about it. But my dad was the type of guy that was like, so how about them Dodgers? It was like getting awkward. He would pretend that he was like Mike Tyson and like do a really bad impersonation. We made fun of each other. My sister and I mock my mom. Like, we have this thing that I say to my boyfriend now. Anytime he says something that he's uncomfortable or I hear a noise, I go, you okay? Because my mom would always be like, you okay? You drop a shampoo bottle and she's like walking by the bathroom and she's all, you okay? So, or my mom will say something and she'll go, what? And we'll go, what? It's just like mocking people was a thing. My sister is super, super hilarious. And I think when you're able to make fun of each other, you get to a different level where you can bring serious things up without it hurting you.
We're at a good level, Kendrick, you and me. Just hearing that. We're on a good level, bro. We make fun of each other all the time.
It's the
That's
best
how we
thing.
recognize hers, because and the cool thing about that, just for people that can do that, because it's so common that when negative or bad happens, people have a natural tendency for it to cultivate into more negativity. Mm-hmm. But you have those instances where people have tragic things that happen to them, and they're able to use it and make it positive and teach lessons with it. It's beautiful to behold. So, God bless you and your family for being able to do that with all that
we grieve, People think that like, oh, they just pass it on. They move on. They do great things. No, dude, it's been 5 years. It's been almost 6 years.
Yeah.
Since my dad died. I've had a lot of time to process. I've gone through resentment. I've gone through hatred. I've gone through sadness. I've gone through all those things, and I didn't hide them. And I think that's the best part, to know that other people are going through their process and it's okay to not be okay during that time.
But yeah, there is going to be a point where it's like, if you're just grieving all the time and you don't do anything with your life after a tragedy, then you need help, and people are going to be like, all right, let's get a move on. But you can sit where you are, you can sit there and you can feel everything, because that's the only time. If you go too soon, you think you're ready, whatever it is, whether it's a breakup, a death, a job loss, grief, we all feel those things. You don't need a diagnosis to feel grief. All those things that people experience, like, feel them. You can't pretend it's not there. You have to, that's always what I tell people.
Yeah, my dad passed on. He passed away about 3 years ago, and he was like my best friend too. And it's like, so about 3 years ago, and it's still hard to talk about him because we're so close. We were like this. He was at all my fights. We trained together. He introduced me to martial arts, and yeah, it's tough, but yeah, talking about it helps, and sitting with it does help. And
keep them alive. They keep them alive in your stories. That's the best part. We always talk about stories, and even like old pets. My mom will sometimes be like, I just really miss him, and I'm like, okay, he had a good life, but like, be like, remember that time that he like scratched my face and he was an asshole? It's just like, bring those stories to life. Like, that's what I want to do for people. Like, even when I'm long gone, I want people to be able to talk about me, something that I was able to pass on to them, and in terms of inspiration or information or anything like that. Like, you live in people's memories. Yeah, that's where you live. That's where people live for us. So to keep someone alive is to keep them present, talk about them, and just keep their ideas alive. It's really interesting to keep that and pass things on, right? If your dad taught you something, go ahead and tell someone else. Like, my dad taught me this. This is passed down to you. Like, cool, boom. Like, I love giving credit where it's due, especially if there's someone that's no longer around that like can't be like, yo, I took that picture. I taught you that technique. Give credit where it's due.
Erin, my last question is going to be this. I find this very interesting. I'm sure this will help some other Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu students too. In your story of your Jiu-Jitsu career, you changed schools or instructors a couple of times for different reasons. The first one was you went from Romulo Barral, Master Romulo Barral, because there wasn't enough good training partners for you, because of you were one of the only women there and everyone else was big. So you moved over to Cobrinha, Master Cobrinha, and Jiu-Jitsu legend. And you went to blue belt with Cobrinha, I believe, and then you switched over to Marcelo Garcia's school, Master Marcelo Garcia, and then you went back for different reasons, back to your original instructor, Master Cobrinha, and got your black belt from him. What was your Master Cobrinha's, what did he say to you when your initial idea to move and go to train with Master Marcelo Garcia, even though he knew the reason? And what did he say, or what was his words to you when you wanted to come back and continue training as a brown belt with him after getting your brown belt from Marcelo Garcia?
So you have to acknowledge politics. Romulo is Gracie Baja. Okay, that's one team. Now, when I switched from Romulo, I went over to a different team entirely, which is Alliance. So that was different, but I was a blue belt. No one cares, like I talked with Romulo, it was a personal thing, whatever. People who are black belts or brown belts and they're in the spotlight and they change schools, then people are really like, ooh, what happened, But for me, who cares? So when I went to Cobrinha's, it was kind of understood that like I was at a time that I'm a late bloomer, and I was my early 20s when I met Cobrinha. So I looked to him. I did the wrong thing where I was like, you're like my dad, and you're going to tell me how to be successful in this, and you're going to tell me all the things I need. And so I looked to him for a lot. And when I had a bad relationship, he knew the guy. And I remember when he told me, he goes, you got to get rid of the bad things in your life, Erin, without explicitly saying it. I thought it was great. So
sounds like something I would tell my daughter.
Right, exactly. So like I always share things. People who are in my life, like, you're gonna know about my life, right? So they knew all my different struggles and stuff. So when I met Gianni, I'm not afraid to say his name, Gianni Grippo, we dated for like 4 years. He's just such a nice, genuine person. And I think Cobrinha was really happy for me. So when I finished school, I finished at Cal State Northridge, my degree, and that's when I moved. So not only was I moving in good hands to be with Gianni, I was also going to a place that was technically the same team. This is Alliance Marcelo Garcia, Alliance Cobrinha, still like the overarching team was okay. And they communicate. They're not like friends, best of friends, but yeah, they communicate. Okay. So there was some overlap. It was weird where it was like, I was already a purple belt when I left Koreans, but I was a purple belt for a while and I was winning stuff. And I thought by the next promotion that I would get my brown belt. And I talked to Marcelo about it when I didn't get it. And he said, that would be disrespectful of Korean because you were with him most of the time and you've only been with me for a little bit. And I'm not going to step on those toes. We'll wait a little bit until you're really my student, you know, wait a
This is where it gets interesting for me. Okay.
Yeah. So he gave me my brown belt in 2015, you know, and it was always weird because I'm like, who do I say? Like, obviously I say thank you because getting me here was Korean as well. And every time I was going home, which is a lot for all the tournaments, I mean, I was always training and Gianni was with me. And then Gianni ended up being like a good training partner for Korean. And then they ended up, you know, he was coaching him sometimes because it was still alliance. And then of course they fought and then there was drama, but not drama, but like kind of a different type of relationship. Now it was like, oh, okay, we're competitors. But beyond that, there was never a problem because of that. It was, they were able to communicate because our points went to all the same people, all the same team, you know, when you compete. And so when I came back, it was just like, cool, it's great to have you back. Because I'd never truly left, I feel like I was gone, you know. And then the craziest thing was my black belt. So back then it was only the black belts would get an email before promotion that said, hey, you're going to test for your black belt, no one else. But that year they introduced it for all the belts, but still the black belts went out first. So I was doing seminars and all this stuff. Like when I was a brown belt, doing Europe, I think I just got back from Iceland teaching a seminar. And I come back and my friend goes, because she was a purple belt, but her boyfriend was a brown belt. And she goes, Jesse got his email, meaning if you didn't get it, you're not going to get promoted.
Not going to get promoted. Yeah.
So I was like, oh man, I was really close with Cobrian's wife, who worked like the front desk and everything. And anytime I wanted to talk to Cobrian because he's such like a stern person, I would just go to Danny. So I was like, hey, Danny, I was like, can I talk to Cobrian about, or no, she said, I asked her, I said, what do I need to do? Why am I not getting it? She goes, you know, just talk to him. And I go, okay. So I said, hey, Cobrian, can I talk to you tomorrow, like in the office before class? She goes, yeah. So I go in and I say, I know that people got their emails and I just wanted to know, what am I missing? What am I not doing? What can I do to get the black belt? And he's like, well, you know, you were gone. You were gone for a couple of years at Marcelo's, and I know you were training, but you weren't training under me. Mm-hmm. And so he goes, I was thinking I was just going to wait and then promote you after Pans. And I'm like, yeah, but I need points to sign up as a black belt for Worlds. So I kind of was like, well, you can't do that technically. Yeah. So then he was like, okay, I'll text Marcelo right now. And then hopefully he responds, you know, during class, and I'll just ask him, what do you think? So
that's kind of close.
Yeah. He goes, Marcelo thinks you're not ready. And I knew he was joking, you know, and he goes, no, Marcelo said he was comfortable with whatever I do. He goes, so, you know, study up, you're going to do your tests, blah, 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 you know.
That's like the ultimate compliment. Damn.
It was. So I feel like I got promoted by both, you know, and it was amazing because they recognized my hard work and my dedication. That was what it was about. It wasn't so much like, oh yeah, you win stuff. It's like, no, you know, my demons, you know, my evils and the things that I personally had to overcome to be where I am today, you know, and to have that culminate into a black belt is huge. And the only reason I'm not there anymore is because during the competition season and things, it was not the vibe I wanted anymore. It was, he had a difficult time like saying good job. He thinks that you can always do more, which, you know, that's why his team is so good. That's why we train so hard. That's why we win the things we win, right? With Kennedy, Isaac, all that. But it was really hard on my mental health. And he wasn't there to be the person to like, hey man, you're expending yourself too much. Because even he's been told that he overtrains. He does too much. He's a machine, dude. It's like, if you try to do what he does, you can't. I mean,
it's not possible.
It's insane. And for the longevity, for how long he's been doing it and making the weight and winning. And he always said, getting to the top is easy. Staying at the top is the hardest. So, you know, when you have someone who is competing too still, and they're so hungry and nothing is ever good enough and no world title is ever good enough. You know, I had that with Romulo too. Romulo was an active competitor as well. And he was more emotional than Cobrian, but he would say, I remember he had this whole thing with his knee when Tarsus messed up his knee, and then he had surgery, and he had his first competition back, and it bugged him again. And he goes, Erin, you don't want to be a black belt world champion. Go be a black belt doctor. Go be a black belt, lawyer. Go do this, because he didn't know the words to say, but I think what he meant was like, it's a very unforgiving chase. It's a rat race, and that was when I was a blue belt. And still I was like, this is fascinating. I want to suffer alongside you. And that's what I did. So I definitely think that changing gyms is not a problem. It's people forget that it's life. Don't be a dick, right? Don't be a dick. If the guy is a dick, then okay, leave, but don't spread news or keep things personal. Keep things with the problem that you have, is whether it's a person there or the whatever, and communicate and say, this is why this isn't working for me, and this is why I'm going to another place. It gets political when it's teams, and when you have points, and every athlete that wins gets points for their team, and then there's this whole thing. That's when it gets political. But if you are a paying customer, you can take your money elsewhere. And that's what I've always thought. And I was a sponsored athlete, so that didn't really work for me. But they'd be like, why are you training over there? I'm like, I don't know. But you can go where you feel safe. That's probably the best way for a female to gauge whether she should stay at a gym or not, is whether she feels safe, whether the training partners, the people around you who work at the gym, they make sure that bad things don't happen. You're not baby you, but just like put people in check. Like, hey, you're rolling too hard. Hey, don't be a dick. Hey, wow, that was great. There's just so many things that make a good teacher. We already know this. We've all been through school. We all know what makes a good teacher. We all know what makes a good human. And as long as you're striving to do that while on the mat, while you have all this adrenaline going, while you're trying to take each other's head off, I mean, that's huge. It's a huge thing to have. So that's why I hold on to it so much with DYNAMIX and Anthony, because it's like, wow, I didn't know I could find both, where I want to kick you in the face and I want to hug you at the same time.
It's out there.
It is exactly.
Thanks for sharing that insightful story about you changing schools temporarily and all the politics that goes with it. I know that's going to help a lot of men and women who do jiu-jitsu, and life might happen and they might need to change schools.
Of course.
So I think that's why I wanted to ask that. So thanks for sharing that story.
Yeah, absolutely. I love the controversial stuff.
Anything we want to anything for Erin? We got to let her go soon. She's been, what do you think? You got anything, Kendrick?
No,
I'm in awe by this interview, Erin.
As well.
I'm in awe.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
I love podcasts, and the reason why, it's like, you kind of approached me and you're like, well, we just have this small little thing, and it doesn't matter, because I started, doing interviews when I was like a white belt, blue belt. I had a zine. I didn't wait for someone to say, oh, you can do this or you can't do that. I went to, I think back then people were still on MySpace a little bit, but I think it was Facebook. And I would just message people like Luana Alziger, Bill Cooper, and they're just like, yeah, sure. And I'm like, can you answer these questions? They're like, okay. I'm like, oh my God, wow. Thank you. And all I have to do is sit here and talk about myself. That's not hard, and I want to share my knowledge. And I think that the best way to get to know someone is through a podcast. We didn't know each other at all. And now I feel like if I saw you, I'd be like, yay, bro, what's up? It's just awesome. It's a cool experience. And anyone who's trying to do better for the sport, anything that I can do, like, I mean, if you ask me to write a 10-page essay, I might be like, whoa, bro, too much. But
slow your roll.
Yeah, but having a conversation, that's the easiest thing to do,
Yeah, we appreciate your time 100%. And I just I'm really excited for people to see this interview and what they can get from your insight, your knowledge, and your experience in the sport of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And shout out to the Jiu-Jitsu Happy Hour on Clubhouse. And how can people get a hold of you, Erin? And also, how can they contribute to Submit the Stigma, or how can they be a part of that?
So I have an Instagram that I'm on all the time. Erin Herle at I was going to say my email for a second, but that's my handle for everything, Erin Herle. I have a Patreon that I kind of took a break from, but I'm going to be back on it. It's Toe Holds, Jabs, and Crying. Covers, my MMA, my jiu-jitsu, and my mental health.
Nice.
And also, like, I don't really use Facebook don't go there. If you need to email me, you can, all that. And then Submit the Stigma is submitthestigma.org. We also have an Instagram, and I haven't updated it in a while, but there are a lot of stories on there. Every single post is a story of someone who was relating jiu-jitsu with their mental health and how it helped them, and just that correlation. And so if you really are interested in jiu-jitsu, or if you're interested in mental health, or especially both, it's like the perfect place to just go there and be like, one, I'm not alone, and two, there, you know, this is a safe community for me, and I can express myself. That's what I want people to feel, because that's always what I wanted for people, you know, safe place.
Absolutely.
Good deal. Good
So,
deal.
any parting words for Erin Kendrick?
No, it's been a pleasure to engage with you and to learn from you, and hopefully we can do it again if you have the time.
Yeah, I got the time. I don't mind talking.
Well, I'll be in touch with you, Erin. Thank
Yeah.
you for everything, Erin, and I hope kick-ass career, whatever you choose to do.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Whatever. Keep
I'll
our
talk to you guys soon.
Okay, sounds good. I'll be in touch.